Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale, up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery with the purchase of any smart bed. Ends Monday. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show. Officially half that work week in the rearview mirror. We are working towards the weekend here on this Wednesday. We'll talk Saints here in 15 minutes. But I want to talk some Ole Miss Rebels. To do that, we bring on Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. Join us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Michael, we appreciate some time. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing quite well. I'm curious the reaction to last season by the Ole Miss faithful.
How much time do you have?
I got 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. That should cover it. No, I think that last year with the preseason expectations the way they were, I mean, that was a top 5-10 team. That was probably should have made the playoffs if you look at all the stats. The number 2 scoring defense in the country, the number 3 scoring offense, 2 first-round picks, and you end up losing 3 games by 13 points, including one against LSU that they never trailed in until it was over. Just kind of lost ways in just kind of tragic ways if you look at it from the Ole Miss perspective. I think there was a really big hope that was going to be the team that broke through. Obviously, Lane Kiffin has really turned around the culture there and created a winning program. I mean, there were times, in the last few decades when an 8-win season would be a colossal win, and now 8-win seasons are that's not going to cut it these days. So, but I think the standard was just so high based on the 11-win season the year before and everything they had coming back that they did fall a little bit short. But if you're looking at the numbers and the personnel, that's just one of the best Ole Miss teams ever, and just everything that could have gone wrong in close games did.
It's tough to swallow, but I think if I'm Lane Kiffin and I'm talking to the booster base to get them to reinvest in what they did the previous year, I go, did you watch what happened in Oxford against Georgia? Because when you understand how low Ole Miss can sink when things are not good and you see how good they look that day, like, to me, that's proof of concept, no?
Oh, 100%. And I think that the crazy thing about that Georgia win, and that, I mean, that's probably one of the most impressive wins in the regular season last year by anybody in college football. I mean, Ole Miss dominated a very good SEC championship Georgia team that had absolutely throttled them the year before. And then they have a bye week, and then they come back, and then they lose a heartbreaker to Florida. But I do agree that it's proof of concept that if you can bring in the sorts of players that you need to win those big games. I mean, it was quite apparent that in 2023, when they went to Athens and they lost 52-17, they didn't have the personnel. Well, they went and got the personnel, and they won that game the next year. Now, they lost a couple other games they shouldn't have won, but they had the personnel to be in every single game. There's no question about that. So I do think that Lane has proven that you can win the big games at Ole Miss. It's just they have to kind of get out of their own way at certain moments. But the talent, the personnel, the coaching is there. It's just they got to win those close games when they have the team to do it.
Yeah, to big picture here, like you said, they had the personnel to go win that game. They had the personnel to go win. They went and got that personnel. A lot of that just left. Did they restock those shelves adequately, in your opinion?
I think that it's, again, the numbers, the number 2 scoring defense, number 3 scoring offense. I don't know if it's fair to expect a bunch of new guys. I mean, they've got 4 full-time starters back. That's it. That's a pretty jarring number. But as Lane has done really well, they attacked the transfer portal. They've brought in guys with a lot of experience at a lot of different places, including, Power 4 programs. And they've also recruited well too, particularly on the defensive line. That defensive line was, I think, number one in the nation in sacks per game. Walter Nolan was an All-American. Princely Mondiello, they had all these really star players. And again, expecting someone to walk in and be like Walter Nolan immediately is probably unfair. But I think they have a lot of really good pieces there. I think the wide receiver room is going to be really, really good. Again, they attacked the portal and they brought in some good recruits. And then, at quarterback, Austin Simmons, that Georgia game, that sort of changed everybody's perception of him. He came in when Jackson Dart got hurt, and he led a huge touchdown drive, and that's sort of all we know about him. And it looks pretty when it comes out of his hand, but we ultimately don't know what's going to happen when the bullets fly. So I think there's a ton of talent with this team. I think there's a lot of potential for them to overperform, but the schedule comes at them pretty fast this year. You don't get those 4 non-conference games to ease into things. That Kentucky team that beat you at home last year is your second game. Then you get Arkansas, which is never a normal game. It's going to come. It's going to come at them pretty fast. The talent's there, but they don't have a ton of time to figure it out if it's not working on all cylinders immediately.
Michael Katz is our guest with the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal, covering the Ole Miss Rebels, talking Lane Kiffin's program as they head into the 2025 season. Can you compare Austin Simmons to Jackson Dart?
They are different. I think Jackson, in terms of if we're looking at style of play, Jackson was a guy who was going to run for first downs and never slide out of bounds. He was going to put his shoulder down. He was going to put himself in harm's way. He wanted to run at times, and he was a gifted passer. There's no question. There's a reason he was a first-round pick by the Giants and looked really good in that first preseason game for them.
Yep.
But I think when you look at Austin Simmons, who can run, there's no question. He's a very good athlete, but he has a special arm. You talk to any Ole Miss receiver, and it's different. The way he throws it. He's a lefty, which obviously, the Tua comparisons come up, and there's not a ton of lefties out there, and that one's one of the most recent ones. That arm is special. But I think that, when we look at what Jackson did last year, he led the nation in total offense and passing efficiency and was first-team All-SEC. That was just a third-year starter. His first year, he took some lumps. It was not always pretty. He threw 11 picks that first year. He threw 11 the next 2 years combined. Austin, I don't know if he's going to come in there right away and be, the efficient Jackson Dart that we saw his last 2 seasons. Again, the talent, there's no question. And if, if you're looking at him just throwing a football, I think that this has the ability to be a really, really deadly passing game if it comes together. But, he's probably going to take his lumps. He's a redshirt sophomore. He graduated high school 2 years early, but he already is starting his master's program. He's a really smart kid, very composed, but they're different in terms of style of play, and I think that the efficiency that we saw from Jackson, I don't know if it's fair to put that on Austin right away.
Let's go to the defensive line. Pegues, Sumamiel, and Nolan, dominant players for Ole Miss last year, and that's something that the elite programs in college football had that Ole Miss hadn't always had. Those guys are out the door. Do you think that they've replaced them up front defensively?
Yeah, I think, again, it's not the household names that they brought in through the portal last year. Last year when they brought in Walter Nolan and Princely for A&M and Florida, respectively, I think that we all knew that they were going to be all SEC caliber players. They brought in some good talent this year. Womack from LSU, who's a huge recruit coming out of high school. I think they're hoping that they can tap into that potential. Trent Will Uman-Yellen, who's Princely's brother, they got him out of Nebraska. And again, these are guys that were highly touted but haven't produced like those other guys did. And again, they've loaded up on defensive line in the high school recruiting ranks. They've got 5 stars. They've got really nice players. Cam Franklin, Will Eccles. Those are Mississippi kids who they got to keep in state and were 4 or 5-star recruits. But they haven't produced yet. They haven't really had the chance to because they were behind guys that were so good. So I think the talent level is not as drastic of a drop off as maybe you would expect. And Lane has said they have a really good first defensive line. I think that group has the ability to be really good, but Walter Nolans don't come along very often. I mean, that was an All-American, again, top 15, 16 pick, whatever it ended up being. Could one of those guys turn into a Walter Nolan? Maybe, but I don't think they have a proven guy like that quite yet. But I will say, when you bring back a guy like Suntarine Perkins, who had 10.5 sacks last year, was really kind of overlooked on the national scene, I think you feel pretty good about being able to get after the quarterback. He's going to kind of play a hybrid role from what it looks like. Little end, little off linebacker, dropping the coverage, things like that. I think having him back is going to be really, really big. And when you add him to that defensive front conversation, I think you feel really good too.
Is Sage Ryan a projected starter?
I would have to imagine so. Again, Ole Miss is they let us see what they want to see,
right.
Practice and whatnot. But he's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football. You guys know that as well as anybody. He's played a lot of games over his career, a lot of different spots. I think they need a guy who understands football at a high level like him back there, because they are so young. And that secondary, their corners are going to be really, really young. They brought in 2 safeties, him and Kapena Geshekin from Washington State, who are veteran guys. And I feel like those 2 safeties are really going to have to lead that defensive back room. So I think Sage is it would be hard to envision him not playing a big role.
Does your gut tell you in November that Ole Miss is a significant playoff contender, or that this may be a little bit of a rebuild?
I've told people I could see this team winning 9 games and not being nearly as good as last year's team was. Just because I think the schedule, it's the same as last year, just you flip the home and away. They get Florida at home. They get South Carolina at home. LSU's at home. Obviously, going to Georgia is going to be rough. Oklahoma, going there, I think it's going to be a lot tougher than it's been, like compared to last year. But they only leave the state 3 times, because their last away game is at Mississippi State. So I think the schedule lines up for them potentially to be in that conversation. I've been on the fence of that 8-4, 9-3 threshold. I just don't know enough quite yet about how these talented pieces are going to fit together, but I think they'll be in the conversation. I think any time you have the talent that they do in a program led by Lane Kiffin, you're always going to be in the conversation one way or another, right? But I think that this can be a 9-win team that doesn't look anywhere near as good as last year's 9-3 regular season win team, but could very well be in the playoff conversation. But I just don't know if I know quite enough yet.
He's Michael Katz, Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal, covering the Rebels. Michael, we appreciate some time. We'll catch up with you down the road when LSU and Ole Miss get ready to roll.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. That is Michael Katz. It's hard for me to imagine Ole Miss being as good a team as they were last year. I've said this a few times on the air. I know that LSU won that game last year, and LSU earned that win last year with clutch plays down the stretch. But when I watched the first half of that game, I couldn't help but think to myself, like, Ole Miss is just better. Like, they cover better. Their pass rush is really dangerous. Their quarterback looks comfortable. I mean, Trey Harris dropped a touchdown that really could have tilted the scales there early in that game. But LSU made the plays, and they had to. Big interception in the end zone by Zy Alexander. Nussmeier obviously made huge plays late to Mason Taylor twice and to Aaron Anderson, and then finally to Lacey. And LSU deserved that late, and the pass rush was great. They had 6 sacks in that game. But I thought Ole Miss was just so good in person, and it is just baffling to me that team lost a game at home to Kentucky. It's baffling, but it did, and that's what kept them out of the playoff. It's not that they lost to Florida. It's not that they lost to LSU. The loss to Kentucky at home. Kentucky went 1-7 in the league. That was the only league they won the whole year. It's just a choke. It's hard to say anything else other than it's a choke. So thanks to Michael for a little bit of time here on this Wednesday. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Come back, talk some Saints next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Captives are a big, big deal. They are the present of insurance, but they're also, I believe, the future of insurance, and they believe that, the Highland Insurance Group as well. If you're a sizable company, you spend a significant amount of money on your commercial insurance, and you're just looking for another option, something a little bit more creative that you haven't been shown before, contact the Highland Insurance Group. Contact Jonathan Carbo. Say, hey, Jonathan, I'm drowning here. These risk costs are just too much for me. Is there anything we can do to look at something different? And if you fit into a captive and your risk management and loss history is appropriate and you've got the credentials to get in, it could be a game changer for your bottom line as a business. Not every insurance broker has access to a captive. If you've been with the same broker for years and years and years and years and they've never brought up a captive before, ask Highland Insurance Group if they'd have a conversation with you. They'd love to. They handle this kind of stuff all the time. Go to the website, HighlandIG.com. You can reach out directly there. You can give them a call. They're here in Baton Rouge. No matter where you are in the state of Louisiana, if your insurance costs are killing you and you think you can fit into a captive, contact the Highland Insurance Group and find them online at HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Renaissance Homes and Pools brings you our Wednesday shows each and every week. You're looking to get into the pool of your dreams. Contact my guy, Joey Blanchard. He's the owner, been doing it for a couple of decades. Dozens and dozens and dozens of folks in the Baton Rouge area have trusted Joey Blanchard and Renaissance Homes and Pools with putting in the pool of their dreams. No matter what that vision looks like for you, if you haven't made it a reality yet, contact Joey Blanchard. Sit down with him. Go through the process of designing that pool, customizing it to your specifications, putting in that outdoor kitchen, making it the place to hang out during the spring, summer, and fall. Like, we get outdoor weather here almost all year round. It can be incredibly useful and beneficial for you. And if you've always thought about it and gone, I've just never pulled the trigger on making that happen, Joey Blanchard is happy to help you out with it. Contact him via cell phone. He's the owner of the company, 225-252-7745. Again, 225-252-7745. He's the owner. He'll be with you from the consultation to the digging of that pool, to the filling in of the pool, to the finish. Every step of the way, the owner of the company will be there with you. That's the beauty of working with Renaissance Homes and Pools. Contact Joey, 225-252-7745. Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. All right, let's talk some Saints. ESPN.com put together a piece about the 32 teams in the NFL and how they rank for the future. So you're looking 3 to 5 years down the line. That's very difficult to do because of free agency and the draft, but that's what they tasked some of their experts with doing. They had Ben Solak, Louis Riddick, Aaron Schatz, and Seth Walder ranked each team, quarterback situation, the rest of the roster outside of quarterback, the roster makeup, the front office, and the coaching staff. And they put it together and ranked the entire NFL. Their ranking looks like a school ranking. A+ is elite, it's 100%. An A is 90-99. B is 80-89. C, 70-79. D, 51-69. You get the point. An F is below 50. And so Philadelphia got the highest score at 92.6, as you would imagine, coming off Super Bowl. And Baltimore's right there at number 2. And then Kansas City's at number 3. The general suspects, the Bills at number 4. And you got the Lions at number 5. Those teams have had sustained excellent play over the last couple of years, in some cases more than that. And that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't expect the Saints to be anywhere near the top. But I was curious, like, where the Saints would eventually grade out. And I kept scrolling. And I kept scrolling, and I kept scrolling, and you got to the bottom. Saints dead last, 32 in this list. They ranked the overall roster at 63.5. That's 31st in the NFL, second to last. Quarterback, you got 2 brand new ones, essentially, 28th in the NFL. Coaching, 31st. And then the front office, the Saints received the worst grade in the NFL. That group gave the front office 53.3. That is nearly a failing grade on this metric. Now, I'm not here to yell and scream and rant and rave or kick the Saints when they're down because ESPN said they had the worst roster 2 weeks ago and they rated every roster and have them as the worst future. What I would like to do is point out this instance here. When you look at what they ranked and you look at quarterback, well, the Saints just made a change. You're not stuck with a quarterback now. You're not stuck with Derek Carr. You've made a change. You've got the opportunity for massive upward mobility because you have made a change. You're not locked in to a massive contract with an aging player who's underperforming or hurt. That's what you had with Derek Carr. You no longer have that. That's not the case for the Saints anymore. So you've got a chance, as I said, for upward mobility there. Coaching, you're ranked 31st. Well, that's because your coach has never coached a game before. Now, he may be the worst coach in the NFL. I don't know. But he might be great. And you've made a change. You're not locked in with a boring, old, proven liability, which Dennis Allen, in his entirety of his head coaching career, was that. He never won anything at 2 stops ever. So you don't have that anymore. So you've got a chance for rapid upward mobility there as well. So it's not that the Saints have underperformers in those 2 positions. They have unknowns. Well, unknowns get known pretty quick, and that's what we're going to find out. Now, the overall roster is a problem. To say you've got the 31st roster of 32 is a problem. But we know that the Saints used all their draft picks this year. We know that the Saints have some guys that are about to come off the books. We know that Derek Carr's gone. And there are some things that can happen in the next 18 months that can greatly improve the roster if young players from this draft class and last year's draft class emerge this year. Specifically, both of your tackles, your secondary with McKinstry, Riley, some of those guys, Brazee, and all of a sudden, that starts to turn upward. There is real reason for some optimism in some of these awful rankings. You just have to see it. Now, the problem is that you are locked into your front office. They're not going anywhere. Now, if you would have run this poll 8 years ago, that front office looked brilliant because the Saints were knocking on the door of the playoffs every year or in. They were knocking on the door of the conference championship often. Their restructuring of salary cap situations was thought to be masterful. And you would have gotten a great grade on these same guys 7 years ago. Loomis, not Ireland, he was late to the party, but certainly Kai Harley. And so they've done it before. They're just in a terrible position right now because of all those things that they did. And if you're a realistic Saints fan, I think you realize that ultimately it was always going to come to this. It was going to come to, yep, this is bad. We got to fix it. The likelihood that you were going to go from pushing every chip to your name in for Drew Brees and making all that work, and then right when Drew Brees walks out the door and then Sean Payton walked out the door, we're fine. Let's just pick it right up. Like, if you thought that was going to happen, that's ambitious. If you're realistic, you're like, okay, we were always going to have to reset this whole thing, and now that's happening. So maybe with a reset and getting some of these guys off the book and freeing up some money for the first time in well over a decade, things can get better. So I would suggest that this ranking, while unfortunate for the next 4 months of your fandom, like I don't have any expectation for this season. So the next 4 months, not going to be a lot of fun. The fact that ESPN ranked the Saints the worst roster in the league 3 weeks ago and then comes back with a new panel, with a new exercise, and has the Saints at the bottom again, like that's not great for the next 4 months. I get that. I'm not really trying to sugarcoat that. I have no interest in sugarcoating that. But I don't think it's sugarcoating it to suggest, hey, you've got these things that people think you're bad at. It's not because they know you're bad at it. It's because they don't know what you've got. And that's what this year is about. And that's what the hope is for the next 4 months. The hope shouldn't be, well, maybe they'll win like 13 games and get home field advantage. The hope should be, man, Shook, that was a hell of a Sunday. That was a great 3 hours. The hope should be, you see those plays Quincy Riley made? The hope should be, oh, now Brian Brzez's stopping the run. He's a multi-dimensional threat at defensive tackle. The hope should be, we got our tackles for the next 8 years. These two dudes have got it. The hope should be Olave and Shaheed just played 17 games at full speed. The hope should be Kendre Miller just showed me something. And if all that stuff starts to happen, which is not wildly unreasonable, this won't look like that next August. You'll be closer to the middle of the pack. You're at the bottom of the Saints' rebuild at this point. I can see a situation where they lose a lot of games this year and draft another quarterback next year. But you're, from a roster perspective, save that one position at the bottom because you're expensive and old at a lot of places. But that's going to get fixed. Father Time will win that battle. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Cam Jordan. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Tyrann Mathieu, who just stepped away. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Derek Carr. Eventually, you will not be paying a ton of money to Taysom Hill. These are certainties in Saints land. Not like if, certainties. So things are changing. The outlook for 4 months is not good. I don't believe the outlook for 4 years, based on this poll and this metric, has to be doom and gloom. I don't think that. But you've got to see some stuff happen over the next 4 months to reinforce that positively. That's the entirety of this situation with the black and gold. So, yeah, it sucks to click on the ESPN article at the top of the homepage and go, oh, where's my team? Last. That sucks. But you understand you're not trapped at last. You're just there for what we hope to be a very brief time. That's a look at the New Orleans Saints today. Jordan, got any thoughts on that diatribe? What's your mindset the next 4 months?
Oh, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch every game, maybe till halftime. You know, I don't really. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not as optimistic about this. I'm not optimistic at all. I'm more in the
about the franchise or about the season.
I say both for the time being. I think the Saints are gonna be bad in 27. I think they won't drop the quarterback in 26. They might see a little something out of Shuck, maybe give him one more year, and then at 27. Like, I really think they're hell-bent on trying to get Arch Manning. I just have a little weird conspiracy that will be the first quarterback they take in the first round since Archie, his grandfather. Like, that's how they want to do it. I think the Saints will be bad. And this hurts. Like, this hurts from me having to say this, but, like, I just think it's really nothing positive other than, you know, maybe the O-line will come together with Banks and Fuaga. Maybe that might be able to come along. The defense show promises. The defense show flashes in the preseason game. I know they're the bench guys, but the fact that the offense look how they look and the defense was pretty solid, you know, a little bit above solid. So I think the defense will be serviceable this season. I just don't have really much upside with the offense at all. You know, your weapons lack desperately. You didn't draft the receiver, and like we said, Chris Olave is a hit away from retirement. Shaheed can't stay on the field, too, so it's like you're out of weapons. You have no speed for real other than those two. You don't really have no depth, so I just don't really see a universe where the Saints win more than 5 games this year. And that 5, and, you know, I told you before, I said 3. You know, one against the Falcons, one against the Panthers, and then, miscellaneous.
By the way, in this ranking, with the future ranking, just combine those two words. The Panthers and the Falcons are both in the bottom 7.
Yeah,
so
you know, those are the guys you're going to beat up on. I think the Bucs are going to run away with the division probably this year. And maybe we'll see what Penix looks like, but I think the Saints they'll at least beat the Falcons once and beat the Panthers, somehow to beat the Falcons. But I see a 3-win football team, man. I don't, you know, maybe Kellen Moore can – I'm just hurting, dog. I'm hurting.
I'm
hurting.
Well, on that note, we'll step aside and come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. Renaissance Homes and Pools. Built by Renaissance.com is that website. I tell you about them every week. I talked to Joey Blanchard a couple weeks ago, and I said, what is the general time frame it takes to start a project with a pool and finish it? He said, obviously, it depends on the scale of the project. Obviously, it depends on the weather. But generally speaking, 6 to 8 weeks. So you're looking at that right now. That's toward the end of September, and you're getting tight on pool time at that point. That doesn't mean you can't make that phone call and just see what your options are with Renaissance Homes and Pools. If you want to do an outdoor kitchen, it's an awesome time to get that done for the fall. Joey Blanchard can help you with that as well. Go see pictures and videos of his great work at builtbyrenaissance.com. I give you Joey's cell every single week. It's 225-252-7745. You work with Joey, you work with a local company to make sure your project is seen all the way through. You don't have to worry about getting some employee who's not happy or is going to leave and head somewhere. No, you work with Joey. That's the beauty of working with a local company. It's builtbyrenaissance.com. Renaissance Homes and Pools, builtbyrenaissance.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Got a story out from this morning at louisianasports.net about the LSU secondary and kind of finding its way back to DBU. And make no mistake, the product that has been out there really the last 5 years since 2019 has just not been representative. In 2020, Stingley was in and out. Ricks was a true freshman. They got torched by KJ Costello, Mississippi State, and they were a little bit better towards the end of the season, but it wasn't great. And in 2021, like you had Stingley still not fully healthy and kind of playing through it, and Ricks left, and you then had Kelly's first year where you had to go to the portal and go grab, Jarrett Bernard Converse and some of those guys, and you haven't had the constant barrage of stars in the secondary that you would hope for. And I don't know that LSU has stars in this secondary. I think it's possible, but I don't know that. There are a lot of falls that I've been watching this team, covering this team, paying attention to this team where you knew where the stars were in that secondary. But Ashton Stamps talked to the media yesterday and spoke about the confidence that he now has that wasn't there his first year. I mean, it was 2 years ago. That was a terrible 2023 defense. He was a 3-star recruit, as he said yesterday, the last guy to get an offer in his class. And he is out there trying to run around with SEC athletes. He just wasn't ready to do it, but he had to because they didn't have anybody else. And it's hard to be confident when you're giving up truckloads of passing yards. It just is. And last year, Stamps was a very productive player. You look statistically at what he did last year, and you're talking about a guy who was, I believe, second in the SEC in pass breakups with 14 last year. And that's a heck of a year. He didn't have an interception, but he did third in the SEC in pass breakups. I want to make sure I had that right, with 14. And that's solid. But LSU still wasn't very good last year in pass defense. They're going to be better this year. I can see that in fall camp. I've told you this plenty of times. The reps we saw in fall camp the last 2 years have just been dominated by the offense. And you saw a team that was 118th out of 133 in pass defense 2 years ago. And last year they were 76. That was 10th in the SEC. That's not good. That's bad. And so Stamps said, look, we brought in Mansour Delane, and that's a dude who knows a lot of ball. We talk about it. And then he talked about his communication with the safeties, with Cooley and Halsey. He talked about them using virtual reality with Clemson's stadium in the background and Clemson's players there, and you each put on a VR headset and you're looking at the same thing and you can communicate that way. But he said that there's a confidence that those guys have that he hasn't seen before at LSU. And as I think about the LSU defensive back groups that I've seen out on the practice field, all I think about is confidence. That's all I think about from guys like Patrick Peterson and Morris Claiborne. That's all I think about from Tyrann Mathieu and Brandon Taylor, Jalen Mills, Derek Stingley, Christian Fulton, Eric Reed, Jamal Adams, Grant Delpit. Like, all I think about when I think about those guys is confidence and edge and swagger and playmaking and highlight reel stuff and Thorpe Awards and first-round picks and multi-million-dollar NFL contracts. And you're not there yet, but you're working in the right direction. I think LSU is going to be very good at safety this year. And I think my confidence level in LSU's cornerbacks from 3 weeks ago to today has grown. We talked about Pickett at the end of hour number 1 with Meet the Freshman. We're talking about Stamps now, Delane. I think LSU is starting to get back to its roots with DBU. Now, look, that first game, this sounds like last year because I was talking that first game, Lincoln Riley, Miller Moss, throw it all over the place. It sounds like last year. That first game, Cade Klubnik, 3 stud receivers that were awesome last year for Clemson. That's a heck of an opening test. But I think when the dust settles from that game, whether LSU wins or loses, I think you'll learn a lot about what this cornerback and safety group have. And my gut tells me it's going to be significantly better. I think they're going to make plays on the ball. I think they're going to get turnovers. I think they're going to make tackles. I think they're going to talk trash. I think they're going to put that DBU label back on their chest. Because that was a brand play. That was a look at me play type deal, but it was real. It was a real thing. And it has been gone for 5 years. Gone. And to me, I think you're looking at a group that may be able to reignite that fire. Tyrann was here the other day. No doubt he's going to be talking those dudes up. But Ashton Stamps is not a big talker. And for him to say yesterday in press conference, like, I'm more confident now, everybody's more confident now, I think you're going to see that on the field, and I'm excited to watch it. There's a big story up, LouisianaSports.net right now. It's titled, Stamps DBs Ready to Restore DBU. So go check that out for free on LouisianaSports.net. Also, I have a story up on LouisianaSports.net from today where I settle 3 different position battles from fall camp. I think 3 of them in the last week have been determined, and I'll give you those thoughts at the top of the show, but also for free at LouisianaSports.net. Appreciate it if you go check that out for free right there on the website. We'll come back and close it out. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. America's best warranty. How about that? 100,000 miles, 10 years, powertrain warranty. Awesome. New vehicle warranty, 5 years, 60,000 miles, bumper to bumper. That's industry leading. Enhanced 24/7 roadside assistance, 5 years, unlimited miles. Big deal. You don't want to be stranded on the side of the road. How about roadside assistance? Right to you if you're a Genesis driver. And complimentary valet scheduled maintenance, 3 years, 36,000 miles. They will come to you. They will pick your car up. They will do oil change. They'll handle your air filter, tire pressure, get the wiper fluid, all that done. You don't lift a finger. They bring you a loaner, so if you got to go somewhere, you go. And when they're done, they bring it back to you. That's the beauty of being a Genesis of Baton Rouge customer. They're at Airline and Pico, across from Women's Hospital. Check them out online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. We are about done here. Been a fast-moving show. They all seem to be moving very, very quickly these days. I've talked about that a few times, but the weeks aren't going very quickly. We still got this week. Got to finish 2 more days strong. Then you got next week, entering week 0, and then it is officially game week. But still chugging along. We got the email yesterday. In fact, we'll be able to go back out on Friday to watch LSU practice again. So Hopefully, we'll get some access on Saturday to scrimmage. We'll see. But LSU continues to crank up fall camps, turning its attention to Clemson here very, very shortly. So appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll close things out the way we do every day with our Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. Delicious, refreshing, 95 calories, only 2.6 carbs. If you're looking for a light beer on a hot day with that great beer flavor from the oldest brewery in America, it's Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer.
All right, let's start it off with everybody's favorite owner, Jerry Jones. So Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones said in an interview that he dealt with stage 4 melanoma and an experimental trial drug saved his life. Jones told the paper he was diagnosed in June of 2010 and began treatment soon after. Over the next 10 years, he said he had 2 lung surgeries and 2 lymph node surgeries. Will Jerry Jones live forever? Take it or leave it.
It reminds me of that South Park episode where all you got to do to cure your disease is have money. If you just have money, you just cure your disease. I'll leave it. I don't know that it'll be around forever. I think there are Cowboy fans that they probably have some cruel intentions, quite frankly. Yeah. But Jerry's going to be around. He's going to make all the calls until he's not around, and those calls have not netted a lot of success. As y'all are now well aware, the Cowboys now have the longest NFC drought reaching a conference championship game, period. Now that Washington went last year, the Cowboys have now, it's been the longest since the Cowboys played to go to the Super Bowl. As Jerry's calling the shots, has not been a super successful run there in Cowboys country.
Jeez, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Yep.
Okay, I know Taylor's man. All right, local businessman and alumnus David G. Booth made a $300 million donation to Kansas athletics, which the school called among the largest single gifts in the history of college athletics. Will Kansas become a powerhouse in the Big 12 now? Take it or leave it.
I will leave it. David Booth was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas, went to Kansas, started a hedge fund, has made billions and billions of dollars. And so, yeah, he's got the $300 million to give at 78, 79 years old, decided to do it. They built a massively renovated their stadium for football. They'll still be great at basketball. And I'm sure Bill Self is good friends with David Booth, who's probably got some pretty good seats in Fog Island Fieldhouse. They will still not be good at football because they're not going to be good at football. That's just the way that goes. So, yeah, shout out David Booth. I think it's quite a large investment in Kansas athletics, $300 million. You can do a lot with that. But I think basketball probably still going to pay the bills there at Kansas.
Yeah, they got to keep the lights on. So the Brewers bashed Paul Skeens for a pair of early home runs and beat the Pirates to win their 11th in a row. The Brewers still cheating. Take it or leave it.
Take it. I mean, how many times do I have to say this? Yeah. It's the biggest scandal in baseball history. Yeah. The Brewers continue to win every game. Every game. The Cubs were 6.5 games up 4th of July. They are now 7.5 games down.
Oh, my.
That is 14 games. The Cubs haven't even played bad. They're just mediocre. They just go 500. And the Brewers win every game. They have won more than 10 in a row 3 times this year. 3 times. That does not happen in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, the Brewers. I would have never expected the Brewers coming into the year like this.
So few people driving around in Baton Rouge share my misery every night watching the Cubs fight for their lives and the Brewers win easily, which I thought for sure I could count on my guy, Paul Skeens, national champion, rookie of the year, best pitcher in the planet, 2-time All-Star starter.
Yes.
Skeens will be the guy that snaps this winning streak. No, the first batter he faced hit a home run.
Oh, wow. On Paul Skeens?
Yes.
That's rare.
They're cheating.
So
this is obvious.
So what do you think it is? Because they're the Brewers. It's not the Dodgers or something.
They're cheating.
Not. That's it.
They're
need to be investigated.
It's obvious. You can't win every game.
And
no one wins every game except LSUS, the Pilots. The Pilots win every game. I'm disgusted, and I'm so disgusted that I will once again turn around tonight and watch every pitch of the Cubs game against Toronto. Gosman against the Cubs tonight. Not pulling for Kev tonight. Was pulling for Skeens last night. Didn't help. Will not be pulling for Gosman tonight as he faces the Cubs and Cade Horton. But the Brewers will probably beat the Pirates again tonight because they win every night. If you're not following this, you're missing the biggest scandal in baseball since steroids. Just tell me.
What about the Astros? Got to be the biggest since them. You know, their little cheating scandal.
I think it's the biggest scandal ever. Black Sox scandal,
Yeah.
Pete Rose, steroids, Astros, trash cans, spitballs. The Brewers take the cake.
It would be a good Netflix doc in a couple years.
A bit of hyperbole in my voice, but the frustration is real. I assure you of that. That's it. We're taking it or leave it. Brought to you by Flight by Yingling. Show today was quick. Started things off. I settled 3 different position battles on LSU's football roster as I see them. I think they are done. I think we know the starters. If you missed it, catch it, Hunt on LSU, wherever you find your podcast, or on YouTube. What If Wednesday, talks some LSU Clemson there. There's also some Saints there. J.D. Pickell talks some National College Football, a lot of Big Ten, a little Florida State mixed in there as well at 1:30. Meet the freshman Tyler Miller on the offensive line, DJ Pickett at cornerback. Michael Katz talked about the Ole Miss Rebels with us at 2 o'clock, and then a little bit of Saints at 2:15. Missed any of it, Hunt Palmer Show on demand wherever you find your sound. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place with a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.